Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Team Empower call. We're so happy to have Amy and Leanne here with us, and welcome to all of you guys who listen to the recording. Totally sorry I dropped the ball last week with the Team Inspire call. That was an epic fail on my part. However, here was a great call, so the recording is there if you want to re-listen to it. And before we get started, a quick shout out to Amy and Jessica, who both are like starting their free challenge, getting ready to start their paid challenge. Like, seriously, so awesome. So proud of you guys. Like, that's always an intimidating thing to do. So shout out to you. And that's a little bit of what we wanted to talk about tonight. Kind of like I wanted to focus on like getting started, because a lot of times like the idea of getting started is so scary. I know it held me back for a long time. A lot of times our coach out, mine and Allie's coach, will talk about there's your start date or like your sign up date as a coach, and then your real start date as a coach. And a lot of times they're not the same and I know that's the case for Allie and I. We signed up in, I believe, October of 2012. Was it 12? Whatever year it was, I don't know. But we didn't actually start our first challenge group for a few months. So I know that the whole idea of just even thinking about where do I even start is overwhelming. So that's what we kind of wanted to focus on tonight is, how to get started, how to get over that fear, where to start, what to do, that type of a thing. So we can help you hopefully miss some of the pitfalls or what's the word I'm looking for? Pitfalls, I guess, that we fell into. Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So I was talking to Leanne earlier today, and she was telling me a little bit about what some of you guys have been collaborating on and coming together. So let's start there with kind of like what has transpired, where it started, where it's going, what you're learning, like that type of a thing, and then we'll keep jumping in. So Leanne, you go ahead and share with us your thoughts, what you're telling me about today.
Well, it happened kind of by chance, I guess. Actually, Amy and I were messaging back and forth, and I just kind of threw out, hey, I think I'm going to try to throw together a group, kind of like was mentioned on Team Call, starting the day after Thanksgiving. But I only have one or two people interested. Do you want to try to throw together? And so she was like, that sounds great. And so I was super excited about that. And then it was like Wednesday, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday, I got a message from Erin. And she was like, hey, I know you're doing a group. Would you care if Joy and I jumped in? We just really need the accountability. And I'm like, yeah, that would be awesome. And at the time, I thought it was going to be just the four of us. So I was like, well, why don't we just do like a whole coaching? Let's just play around with it. Each of us take a week, kind of try to, because I've just been using solely the scripts. Which have been great, but I'm at that point that I want to start doing my own thing a little bit more and branching out a little bit more. So I was like, well, why don't we do that? Because I know I'm wanting to do that, but I'm really scared to. So it kind of evolved, and we all, I think we all have at least one, if not two people in there. So it's really exciting.
That's awesome.
And we're all like, I'm doing this week, and I think Erin said she's doing next week. You're doing next week, Amy? Okay. Amy's doing next week, and maybe Erin said the third week. I don't know. Anyway, I have it all in my message. We have a group message between the four of us. So I don't know. I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to the way it's going to pan out for the next 3 weeks.
That's exciting. That's so awesome that you guys came together like that.
So
it takes the pressure off, I feel like.
Yes, I'm excited about, like, I have somebody in there. Actually, I think I have two people. I have two people in there. I should know that. But I'm excited about, I did the preseason, and I'm doing week 1, and then I'll come back, I told him I could pick up week 4, however that transpires. But it's kind of exciting then thinking about next week. I don't have to be quite as on the ball per se. I can just participate and not have to be coming up with the stuff. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited.
I love that.
That's so cool. And I think too, especially for the beginning, I know something that I saw you learn a lot, Leanne, is when you were working with Kendra, that it's nice to kind of have a little bit of a security net, and to have a partner that's kind of been there, maybe even just a little bit, somebody to kind of make it not feel so overwhelming and so new. But then at the same time, another thing that I saw you learn that I've learned, and it took me a while to learn, is it's good to have that security net, but then it's also good to have it taken away. And I think that I learned this lesson best when I had my first baby, and I was so terrified. Like, I was such a mess when he was born, and I didn't want to be left alone with him. Like, I was like, what happens if he cries and I don't know what to do? Like, well, I was so afraid. I had somebody with me literally like 24/7. And then it came time for my husband to go back to work and my mom to go back home. And I had to go alone. And I was terrified just thinking of it. But ultimately, once they finally left, I realized that thinking about it was 10 million times scarier than just doing it. Like, a lot of times in life and, in motherhood and everything, and right now specifically coaching, 9.9 times out of 10, the answer is just try, just jump. And so I love that you guys, that, Amy and Joy and everybody's kind of able to get their feet wet. But then I also would encourage you to keep in the back of your mind that to fail your way forward, just don't keep getting ready to get ready, because that was totally me for so long. And the nice thing that is to remember is that people that join your challenge group, they've most likely never been in a challenge group before. So they have nothing to compare it to. They have no idea if you forget something or if you should have done something or if you, whatever it may be. They have no idea. All they have to go off of is what you're doing. And so everything you do is right, and so you're not going to be wrong. You're not going to do something bad. You just go with it. And at the end of your 30 days, then you'll say, okay, like this, and this worked, and this didn't work. And I'm going to change this, and I'm going to keep doing that. And then you'll run your second group and you'll implement the things that you've learned and changed and tweak. And then you'll want to tweak things again. And that's totally cool. You don't have to do it the way I do it, the way Allie does it, the way, whoever you see does it. Like, you do you, and ultimately what your job is just to do life with people, just to show up and encourage and be real. And that really is what it's all about. There's no rights, wrongs, coulds, shoulds, any of that kind of a thing. You mentioned something else when we were talking earlier, that you said it all comes down to what? Do you remember?
It's just
No. It all comes down to
you were saying something about like what you really, I can't remember now. I wish I had the text with me. You were talking about, how it can be scary to be a new coach and everything. And you said it all, what is it? Let's see. But I think the common struggle has been balance and pushing through all the no's and crickets, which all comes down to personal development.
Yes, that. Yeah.
So
but that's not even just in the beginning.
Oh, no. That's every single step for sure.
Yes, because you have like 2 weeks where you're like, yes, this is going great. And then you're all of a sudden like, oh, what am I doing?
So tell us what you've learned from personal development.
Well, my favorite story that I keep going back to is Colonel Sanders. And I actually heard his story like in a 5-minute podcast with, oh gosh, what was the guy's name? I can't even think about it. I can't remember what his name was. Anyway, and his story of, he's 77 and he had like 100 and something no's and then finally got a yes. And so, and just the whole being persistent and like the slide edge says, you know, showing up every single day and doing the little things, because it's the little things that make you and it's the little things that break you. They're easy to do, but they're just as easy to not do. Sometimes even easier to not do. And so I just like right now, I mean, it's like probably the last 11 people I've messaged, I've maybe heard back from one. And that's just a, hey, how are you? So nice to meet you. And I've heard back from maybe one. But I just keep pushing through. I just keep telling myself it's because of the personal development I'm doing, I believe, that I just keep telling myself, just keep going, because they're not the right person for you. It's not right now. So I don't know. I mean, that's just like, I guess that's kind of like my takeaway.
Totally.
But
sure.
And it's funny to think that it's a year, because I still feel like brand new, but it's definitely those things that I've picked up from doing the reading and listening to the podcasts and listening to National Wake Up Call and just making sure that I'm doing those things.
Totally.
And reaching out to others and being like, okay, is it just me, or is it normal to hear crickets and hear nothing when you've messaged at 15 people? Is that normal? And so it's good to hear somebody say, yeah, it's totally normal. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there.
Totally. Al, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I love that you pointed that out, because it's the same for me too. And something that I've totally seen to be true with my customers and as me as a customer of other like products and stuff is that it takes 7 to 10 exposures to something before someone will commit. And I totally see that in myself. Like I you know, all these Usborne books, however you say it. Like I have probably been invited to like 15 parties for that product, you know? And finally, like I actually was like, okay, what's the big deal? Went and looked and I made a purchase. And same thing with something else. Like it took several exposures of something before I purchased. And I'm sure all of the coaches of these other companies or whatever are kind of the same way we are, you know, that, oh my gosh, I'm hearing nothing. But really, I'm just on the sidelines, like reading about their product and trying to figure out when is the right time for it to fit into my life. And so I love the idea of consistency and personal development, so you don't give up, and just realizing that every time you talk about what you're doing is just one additional exposure, whether it's a message to someone or a post about something or a free group or a free challenge. Each one of those things is an exposure. So yeah, I like that.
Totally. Well, and I think what goes hand in hand with that too is remembering that an exposure can also be an exposure to you. You know, so for example, there's this girl I follow on Instagram that I've just been following her, and I really like her stories. I like what she talks about. She's just cool. Like I like what she shares, and she just shares everyday like stuff, and she's open and she's real. And she, you know, she's honest about, you know, life and everything. And so when she suggests a product, I am always intrigued. I always want to look into it. You know, I want to know what she's talking about because I like her. And so it's the combination of, you know, being exposed to the product. So sharing the product enough, but then also remembering that sharing you is also something that's very powerful, because people will want to follow you and want to know what you're doing because they like you and they like who you are and they like that you're real and that you're open. And so an exposure doesn't always have to be a product, but it can also be you. It's the combination of both of them kind of a thing. Because if somebody likes you but never knows what you're doing, well, they're just going to like you and think you're cool, the end. But if they only know what you're doing, but they know nothing about you, they're probably not going to be that interested. But when they know both pieces, that's when they're going to want to know what you are doing and want to join you. And that can be done through social media. That can be done face to face. that can be done. I love how Erin was talking about in her video recently, how, teaching PIO has really allowed her to branch out to people that she wouldn't have otherwise known. There's so many different ways to coach, and it's all about finding your groove. It's going to look different for everybody. It's going to look different for Amy because she has, she's cutting people's hair and she's talking to people every day. I am lucky if I talk to like one person outside of my family during the day, like face to face. So it's going to look different for everybody, but it's about finding what feels right to you, but that also pushes you outside of your comfort zone. It's not something that's miserable. It's not something that you hate doing, but it's also not staying in that little ball, that little zone of comfort and hoping that somebody comes to you, because ultimately that's just not the day and age we live in. So, yeah. Al, did you have something to say?
Nope, not about that.
Okay, cool. So those are the kind of the few things that I wanted to talk about, like getting started, where to start, how to do it. Basically, one, just jump. Like, just invite somebody. Like, your invites are going to sound ridiculous. You're going to look back. You're going to like feel like an idiot, but you'll learn. The only way to learn is to just jump. And like, I mean, that's the case with anything. Like, we don't learn how to be a mom until we're like thrown to the wolves. And we don't learn how to be a coach until we jump and do something scary. The second thing would be to, get out of your own way, kind of like the same thing as before, but don't convince yourself that you're the only one hearing crickets, or that you're the only one feeling uncomfortable, or whatever it may be, because you're not. And the more you're willing to be open and share that and talk about it, you'll see that, we're all in the trenches together. Like, we are all right there with you, and don't believe you're the only one struggling or wondering what the heck. Or succeeding, because we're all in the trenches together. Al?
Yeah, I do actually have one more thing to add to that. I burned myself out really quickly as a new coach when I started running challenge groups, because I was always in them. And so that's something I would suggest not doing is, I mean, we talk about setting business hours, but often we're talking about like when you're doing your vital behaviors and stuff. And I would do that, like set business hours for my vital behaviors. But then I found myself like I was always in my group. I felt like if someone commented, I needed to respond, within an hour or two, or if someone sent me a personal message from the group, I needed to respond quickly. And I just felt like I was on my phone all the time, which I really hated. I don't like that. I don't want my kids to see me on my phone all the time. And I just like wore myself out really quickly by always doing that. And so eventually I learned people are not expecting you to respond back like super quickly. If you notice in our groups, I'll usually pop in the morning to like check in with my workout, and then I'll comment on anybody's that I missed from the night before. And then sometimes at the end of the night if I have a minute. But even if I'm in the group only once a day, I feel totally fine with that, and feel like I'm still giving my clients what they need. And it really gave me the space I needed from coaching to not feel like it was completely taking over my life. So I would definitely suggest that.
Totally. And in connection with that, I know we've mentioned this before, but if you're newer and haven't heard us say this, but like turn off the notifications off your phone, like get rid of all of those, because having your phone ding at you all day long is like, it's going to suck you back into those groups. So shut off the notifications. I put my phone on mute, so it's on my terms. It's not on my phone's terms as to when I like work.
And most of the time, I won't even, like if it's not time, if I see a message come through on Messenger, if I'm not ready to respond, I usually don't even open it. Like, because, I'll find myself be curious, wanting to know what they say, but then it just gets me sucked in. Then I'll like, I can just respond really quick. And then I'm on there for like 30 minutes when I wasn't expecting to be. So that's kind of a rule I've set for myself. I don't always do that, but for the most part, if a message comes in and it's not like a designated time to sit and respond, I won't open it at all. So
totally. Yep, for sure. And last but not least, don't forget your personal development. I know we say this all the time, But we'll continue to say it over and over and over, because that was one of the biggest things that I missed as a new coach, and one of like the most important and vital aspects of coaching is making sure that you're fueling yourself and your brain, and just developing you and giving yourself the fuel that you need, because you spend all day giving to other people, whether it's in the coaching world, in the mom world, in the family world. We're always giving. And so that personal development is so crucial in order to kind of keep the burnout away as well. So those are some of my top beginning coach tips. Al, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
Nope, that was the main thing that I wanted to say, was to just get off your phone.
Okay, cool. Amy, do you have any questions or anything that is confusing or you're wondered about or that's worked for you?
Still a newbie.
Okay. Well, you're doing great. I love that you have reached out to Leanne, that you guys are collaborating. I think that's awesome. Totally using your resources well. Love it. Love it. Love it. So keep going. I can't wait to hear about how your week goes. And just kind of what you learn along the way. So keep it up.
Sailing forward.
Love it. That's what I like to hear. Were you able to get your link to your community that I sent to you? Okay, perfect.
Once you send it to me, then yes.
Good. Okay. I can't get it from my phone. I could only get it from my computer. It took me a while to figure that one out. So
me and this, technology, it's just not good. I cut hair for a living. That's
well, you're doing a pretty dang good job. So keep it up. All right, you guys. Well, we will catch up again next Monday. In the meantime, don't forget to use hi, Macy, to use Team Empower for any questions or anything that you have. We are all here and all in it together. So have a great night. And Allie, enjoy decorating your tree. Bye, Macy girl.
Later.
See ya. All right. Have a good night, guys.
Bye.
Bye.